freshly rolled cigarette between his lips, and a cricket in his hands, eating off the warts. You know, it must have worked. He married my grandmother in 1942.
The following is an advertisement from the East Tennessee Medicine Company. Dear friends, it is so easy to get sick and so hard to get well if the digestion is bad. It is generally conceded that 9/10 of the human ills arise from that dreaded disease, indigestion. The slightest disturbance of the stomach deranges all the succeeding operations of digestion, and of all the ills to which the flesh is heir, there is none which so discourages or makes you feel worse than indigestion or dyspepsia. Thousands of good people starve to death in the United States every year with abundant food and easy reach. No matter what or how much you eat, if you do not digest and assimilate it, it does you no good. You gradually starve to death. Your mind weakens with your body. You are the victim of strange dreams, delusions, and hallucinations. Deplorable condition and so easy to avoid. If you are sick, Dr. Panhorst indigestion powder or tablets will surely help you. Thousands have been helped by their use. Why not you? It is pleasant to take and acts quickly. Why not try a bottle today? You can see Dr. Sadie later for a bottle. That's the end of the verbatim medical advertisement. Now a little history. Dr. Panhorst immigrated from the Netherlands to America in 1867, and he made his home in Jonesborough at 208 West Main Street, the stucco home. His father had been a surgeon in the Royal Dutch Navy, and he used a lot of his father's teachings to found the East Tennessee Medicine Company in 1890 and write wonderful advertisements like that. The company sold PIP, Panhorst indigestion powder, and a multitude of other medicines. Unfortunately, the company fell in hard times, and Dr. Panhorst was forced to sell in 1894. The Park Davis Company bought the formula for PIP, and they eventually turned it into Tums. And in that way, Dr. Panhorst's legacy lives on.
My story will end with my last telling of it before I pass into eternity, for I'm childless. No one will be left to recall it. My story starts with those before me to understand the miracle of it. My father is from a deeply religious Christian family. His father and grandfather were ministers. Daddy, being just 20 years old, and Mama, just 17, were married in the spring of 1951. Daddy shipped out to Korea in 1952. Mama lived with her parents on the Mill Hill. Daddy finished his tour, and I was born a year later, on Valentine's Day, their first child. We moved out of my grandparents' place and into one of our own. The apartment was heated by oil heaters, the big 4-foot upright kind that had pilot lights and temperature regulators. They could get extremely hot. Mama had her hands full keeping me away from that heater. She had a dreadful fear of fire because in 1932, on a cold October night, a horrific fire broke out in a house on the hill. A whole family perished. My mama's aunt, her husband, their 3 children, and his sister. 2 of them lingered into the following couple of days. Back then, doctors could give morphine for pain, but not much else for such burns. Except they'd just pray that God would be merciful and allow death to deliver them. It was on another cold October day that I was toddling around our home and fell against the heater, searing my face, arm, and body. My parents administered cold, wet cloths, but they didn't take me immediately to the hospital. Nobody had cars on the Mill Hill, and payday was still a week away. Nevertheless, they were with a severely injured child and had a decision to make. My maternal grandmother recommended calling a woman who could talk the fire out of burns.
You need to call Granny Meadows now before it's too late.
It became a spiritual test for my daddy. He didn't want to call this woman who to him performed witchcraft.
Don't worry, it will be all right.
But will he live?
Everything has a place and a time. I do not believe this is his time. You should believe too.
She stood over me with her back to them. She placed her hands on the burned places of my body and cited a Bible verse from the book of Jeremiah and spoke softly. I can't remember everything, but I remember the verse from Jeremiah.
The pain will end soon. The scars might remain if you don't hold still.
My pain was more than relieved. It was gone. After telling my parents not to put bandages on me, she did not linger. She left with one last instruction.
Believe and expect signs of healing.
It was a difficult thing for my father to do, to believe in something different. He struggled as I struggled. As I began to heal, he was able to believe. Or perhaps when he was able to believe, I was able to heal. The scars disappeared save for one ridge on the side of my face. The mystery is, we'll never really know which came first, healing or belief, because he never told me, and he's gone now. And one day, I will be too. Not even a scar left to remind anyone what I lived through, who I was. Everything has a place and a time. There is healing in that knowledge.
Doc Thompson was working the ER one night and a man came running in.
Quick, Doc. My wife is in the backseat of the car. The baby's coming now.
I'll go. You let the nurse know her name. We can get her in the room.
Doc Thompson runs out with his bag and he pulls open the car door.
Get on the floor. Get on the floor.
The lady gets on the floor like he tells her, and Doc Thompson pulls up her dress to deliver the baby, and he stops.
Sorry, wrong car. Get on the floor. Get on the floor now. Wait, are you having a baby?
The second visit was the charm. Another one about Doc Thompson and a second visit. This happened before chemotherapy and radiation became routine treatments. It used to be that cancer was a death sentence, no matter what kind. Doc Thompson scheduled surgery with a woman having stomach pain. When he opened her up, he found that she was eaten up with cancer. I was a nurse assisting, and we all went silent. I said, "There's nothing we can do. Let's just sew her back up."
Wait, there's one thing we can do.
Before sewing her up, Doc Thompson said a prayer for her. He knew it was out of his hands, so he asked it to be put in the Lord's. He told the woman the prognosis and scheduled a second visit to check her blood count. When she came back, the cancer was gone, and he knew there was nothing he himself had done.
Believe and expect signs of healing.
Healing doesn't always come through a doctor's hands alone.
There's a river between my home and office. We got a call one afternoon. There's a guy that was on a tractor that turned over and his leg was broken. Well, I thought I'd come over and help do something about it, but I'd need some transportation to take him to the hospital from there. Well, the guy that drove the ambulance, he'd been in the service too around the same time I was. And like me, even though he was a sergeant first class, he was treated second class the whole time in the service. For talking with the drawl, wearing denim off duty, being different. He and I got along real well. We were from the South after all. We share something a lot of people around here had. We both served during the Korean conflict, which any kind of war is going to make a band of brothers out of you. But more than that was that we'd gone out. We'd seen more than what was right here. It's important. To be fair, that doesn't go for just Sullivan County. If you never go away from where you're raised, you think there's no other place. Same as if you're from New York City or Kalamazoo. You got to go away to see things fresh. And me and this fella that drove the ambulance, we saw things different than a lot of our neighbors. When we got there, the bridge was lined with people, standing on the deck, looking over the rail of the bridge. And this tractor had turned over down below on this one man. He was down there, one person. So I got Arthur to go down with me, down there where he was. I could tell this fella had a fracture of his femur. His thigh bone was sticking straight through. He was bleeding, and we needed to get him up the hill. I called up to the bridge for help. Arthur called up too, but we couldn't get anybody to come down. The fellow who was hurt, he was different. Nobody came down to help us carry him up. Well, I gave him some Demerol in his vein and took away some of the pain. I look at Arthur, we both know we had to get this guy out. He was in real trouble. And it was just going to be Arthur and me. We looked at this big, heavy fella, 250 pounds. It was so pitiful. Broken and bleeding red blood. Nobody helped because he was different. And I won't even say what kind of different it was, because in the end it doesn't matter. There wasn't a difference in the world. It's an excuse to treat anyone less than the precious human being, the miracle of life they came into the world as. I thought about those years in medical school, in the Navy, at conventions being treated a certain way because I was different. I thought about the nurse that worked with me who never would be the doctor she knew she was because it wasn't her place. I looked at the long climb up, and I thought about the long climb we all have to face in front of us. Anyone who's different. I was carrying more than this fella up the hill, and when I looked at Arthur, I saw it in his eyes too. We took a breath, reached down to lift. You carry your end of a 250-pound person on a stretcher, you're going to remember that. I didn't know how we were going to do it, but somehow we lifted it. It was like he only weighed 10 pounds. Maybe it was adrenaline, that could be scientific explanation, but, well, it was more than that. I don't know where we found the strength. At one point, it wasn't even like us carrying him up the hill anymore. It was like an army of help with us when we thought we were alone.
Believe and expect signs of healing.
No matter how hard things get, there's always something sweet waiting around the corner.
Whether it's a sweet memory from the past or a hopeful glimpse into the future.
If you're hurting, there's always someone there. Even if it's one person, there is someone there.
At one of the many locations of Mountain State Health Alliance.
To root healers and old-time knowledge.
To music that soothes the body, mind, and soul.
Just remember.
There's someone who cares, someone there to help you. Don't ever bleeping forget that.
Thank you to all the helpers, healers, doctors, and caregivers who make our lives easier to live. And thanks to the Tennessee Arts Commission and Appalachian Light and Sound. And also to Mountain States Health Alliance for your support and your wonderful stories of caregiving. From all of us at the Yarn Exchange, be well and good night.
Pull a strand and help me, weave it through and bend. As your own life story, then we'll start again. At the Jonesborough Yarn Exchange, give us a story and we'll give it a name. We'll get them all together in a brand new play. Then we tell it the Jonesborough way. Then we tell it the Jonesborough way.
Our show tonight was brought to you by the Jonesborough Yarn Exchange. Jonathan Baker, Summer Buchanan, Don and Deb Berger, Susan Burke, Lee Clements, Roger Cassell, Mike Davila, Lily Urbach, Phyllis Fabosi, Stephen Goodman, Abby Hawthorne, Sadie Hyatt, Dave and Dana Keys, Lori Olmstead, Linda Poland, Nancy Ray, Katie Rosalowski, Tom Sizemore, Caleb Strickland, Joel and Anna Van Eaton, Vivi von Voigtlander, and Audrey Wolf. Thank you all of you for being here.